This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hey basic bitches, welcome back. This is our second episode of our spooky themed Faves of Our Lives. Grab a hard apple cider, some candy corn, ew, and a scary mask. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Brittany.
And today we're talking about Halloween and Activia.
Halloween was released October 25th, 1978, right in time for Halloween, and was directed by John Carpenter. The cast was Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, as Laurie Strode, Donald Pleasance as Dr. Sam Loomis, Nancy Kyes as Annie, PJ Souls as Linda, Charles Cyphers as Brackett, and Nick Castle as Michael Myers. The plot of the movie is 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night, 1963. Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois to kill again. I have to start by saying that this is like one of two of my favorite scary movies that I watch every year for Halloween.
I don't watch any scary movies for Halloween. I usually stick to like Halloween Town.
And Hocus Pocus.
Have you seen Halloween Town?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we weren't going to be friends anymore.
No. Halloween is my favorite holiday, so pretty much anything Halloween related I have seen.
It's weird because I like Halloween and I like all the fall stuff, but I don't like scary things.
Yeah, I can get that though, because like I used to throw Halloween parties for my nieces and nephews, and it was like fun Halloween stuff, not spooky and gory, and so I get it.
Can we tell them what we did last year?
Sure.
Last year, Brittany had a basic bitch party, and we had everything pumpkin spice flavored, and we carved pumpkins.
And we're doing it again this year.
And we played Cards Against Humanity, and it was a blast.
Yes, Gary.
Gary. Oh man, that was so funny, I don't even know why.
So, Halloween opens up, of course, with Michael Myers killing his sister, and because if you've ever seen Scream, it is following the basic rules of a scary movie. His sister had sex, so she has to die.
Yeah. And this was the second worst stabbing scene. Right after Psycho.
Right
the
after
cheesiest
Psycho.
Stabbing scene ever. Like, you don't see any stab wounds, and she is making sex noises while she's being stabbed, basically.
Yes, and her boobs are out.
Yep.
The other part that really confuses me is we're seeing this scene through Michael's eyes. He's got a clown mask on. As he's killing his sister, he just randomly looks up at his hand with a knife in it. Like, that's what we're supposed to believe happened. And I still didn't see any blood.
Weird.
Did you see blood on the knife?
No!
I don't think that there's blood on... I won't swear by that, but I don't remember seeing it.
This was a bloodless stabbing.
Yes.
There was, however, I think there was blood on the knife when he was outside and his parents came home.
Yes, there was, because that's another argument that I have with this movie. The parents come home, Michael is just standing there in his clown outfit with a bloody knife in his hand, and they're just like, Michael? Michael? And the dad takes the knife, I'm pretty sure, but they're like a good 2 feet away from this kid. Now, you walk up to your house, and your kid is standing outside with a bloody knife in his hand. These are the calmest people I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know. Like, if it was me, I would scream, grab my kid, like, pick them up and be like, what happened? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'd be checking them for stab wounds.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just... I get that it's just supposed to be eerie, but that is not realistic.
He was a really cute kid, too.
He was a cute kid, yeah.
He didn't look like a crazy person. Not that there's, like, a look for a crazy person, but he seemed really chill, too.
Yeah, sometimes there's a look for a crazy person.
I was trying to be nice.
We flash ahead to, I believe it's 1978 is when the film is set as well. You see Dr. Sam Loomis and a nurse, I cannot remember her name or if they even said it. They are going to the mental institution where Michael Myers is. They're having a conversation about him, and you get right off the bat that Loomis does not think that Michael Myers should ever be released. He's just a monster. He should know because he is the therapist who has spoken to Michael. He continually lobbies against his release. When they pull up to the mental institution, there's just random people in hospital gowns walking out in the open.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a scary scene. Loomis gets out and he calls from the gate to tell people at the hospital, hey, you got patients running loose. And as he's out, you see someone in a gown run up the trunk of the car and onto the roof that the nurse is still in. This dumb bitch decides it's a good idea to roll the window down and stick her head out to look.
Okay, but that's true, like, horror movie fashion.
It's true horror movie fashion, but come on. The person grabs her and she's fighting him off. She does get away, but he gets in the car and he drives away, and you find out later that this is Michael Myers. Flash to Haddonfield, and out walks Laurie Strode, who is Jamie Lee Curtis, and I don't think that I have to say how much I love Jamie Lee Curtis.
Okay, obviously she's very young in this movie, but I do think that she looks a little old for the role that she's playing. Is this what you think, or no?
I do think that. I also think that she sounds old for the role, but she's the only actual teenager in the film.
Really?
Yep.
Because she's playing a high school student, which, okay, is she a senior, probably?
I believe so, yes.
But she looks like she should be, like, a mom.
I agree. And like I said, like, her voice sounds the same in this movie as it does now.
I mean, you do get the feeling that she's very mature for her age, but still, it's just odd to me, I guess.
Right. I was kind of floored to see that she was the only teenager in the film because of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And, like, she could be 19, but that's not a far cry from a senior in high school.
No.
She leaves the house, she's walking to school, and Tommy, I believe is the little boy's name, runs up to her. Tommy is the little boy that she babysits for, and she's going to be babysitting for him tonight. So they're walking together, and he asks, can we carve a jack-o'-lantern? And she was like, yeah, we can carve a jack-o'-lantern. And she says that she has to stop by the Myers house to put keys in the mailbox, because her dad is a real estate agent. You see the house that you saw in the opening, and it's really run down. So when she takes the keys to the mailbox, you see from inside the house that someone is watching her through the door.
Yeah, and Tommy's kind of like, okay, bye. Like, I'm not going up there. You're on your own.
He's a smart kid. Honestly, Tommy's probably the smartest one in the film.
Ah! Sorry. I'm sorry.
You're having flashbacks?
No. I accidentally clicked on a video. It was really loud.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
I thought you were going to be able to hear it, and I was trying to stop it before it started, but I couldn't.
Nope. Must be good headphones.
Sorry. You can leave that scream in there.
Oh, I'm going to. Lori gets to school. She is sitting in the classroom. She's obviously paying attention because the teacher asks her a question and she answers it, but it looks like she's daydreaming, and she looks out the window and she just sees this man standing out in basically like a painter's suit. I guess it's a plumber's suit, we find out later, but it's just, what is that called?
Coveralls?
Yeah, coveralls. And he's far enough away that I guess it's not apparent that he has a mask on.
I guess, because it seems weird that he's just walking around in broad daylight with this mask.
Right. And I mean, it is Halloween, so people may just be assuming that it's a joke or whatever.
Oh, that's true.
I'm trying to think from Lori's point of view if it is, like, immediately noticeable that it's a mask. If she's from that far away. She's just like, this guy has never seen the sun before in his life.
Yeah.
She looks away for a second to answer this question, and when she looks back, he's no longer there. You can see kind of, like, she's thinking in her head, okay, I know that guy was there and now he's not. The school day is over. You see Tommy running out from the school, and he's got this big pumpkin, and these little assholes decide to pick on him. He falls, and he busts his pumpkin open. He gets up to run off, and when he runs off, he runs into Michael Myers. You can see the pure terror in his eyes, and he runs off. But I just want to point out that even this psycho killer was nicer to this little boy than his little quote-unquote friends.
Yep.
So what are they gonna grow up to be?
Let's see.
President of the United States.
Jason.
Voorhees.
Is that his name? Jason, like Jason with the mask?
Mm-hmm.
Freddy Krueger. All those people. Saul.
Jigsaw.
Yeah. What's his first name? Jig. Saul.
Excuse me,
Mr.
Mr. Saul? Lori is walking out, or walking home, with her friends, Linda and Annie. Let me ask you something. Did you notice the same thing I did about Linda?
Is that the cheerleader one or the one with the curly hair?
That is the cheerleader one. The blonde.
She had a lot to do.
She had a lot to do.
She did. She was like, we have to learn 3 new cheers, then we have to go to the game, then there's the prep rally. I'm making this up. But it was like, then there's this thing, then I have a hair appointment, then I have to get ready for the dance, then I have to go to the dance. I'm gonna be wiped out. I was like, girl, same.
That was a pretty good reenactment, except that you probably left out 3 totallys while you were saying that.
I didn't notice that, because I say like a lot and other things.
Yeah, you don't say totally as much, I can tell you that. Because by the end of this scene, I was like, bitch, say totally one more time, I swear to God.
Oh, I didn't notice that, but she was gonna be really wiped out. And all the things she had to do were like stupid things. But I feel like I can relate, because one time before the prom, me and my friend skipped our last period of school so we could go to the tanning bed, because we had too much to do with going to the tanning bed and getting our nails done and all the other things we had to do before prom.
Yep.
It was just too much.
I get it.
And then Lori was like, oh, I forgot my chemistry book.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up the books, because here's another thing that bothers me. Why do they even carry the bags on their shoulders?
I don't know.
When Lori gets back to the house, she throws the bag on the bed. That bag is empty. Put your books in it.
Yeah, I mean, if it was full, then that would be one thing. Maybe they didn't all fit. But if it was empty, then that doesn't make any sense.
They're walking home, and the dialogue is that Lori is a good girl, and she doesn't date boys, and boys think that she's too smart because, you know, she just has her shit together.
Yeah, and she scares them away.
They drop Linda off at her house, and as they're walking down the street, she sees Michael Myers standing at the edge of some bushes. Annie is conveniently looking down, so she says, Annie, did you see him? So she looks up, he's gone. And Annie decides she's going to go ahead and see who it is. She gets to the bushes, pretends to have a conversation with somebody, and says, Lori, he wants to talk to you. She runs up, nobody's there. And this is when Annie says, "Scared another one away, Lori." They're really kind of mean to her, but it's realistic because friends are mean to each other.
Yeah, they are. Sometimes they leave you out in the rain.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Lori goes home. She hears some screaming. That freaks her out. She's on edge because she's been seeing this same guy all day. Also, they yell at him when he's driving by. I don't think that they know that it's him at that point.
Yeah, that was funny.
They say, "Hey, buddy, speed kills." He stops, and they think that basically he's gonna murder them right then, but he drives on. When she gets to the house, she hears the screaming. It ends up just being trick-or-treaters next door. She smiles because, she's a babysitter, so she likes kids. She goes upstairs, throws her empty bag, an armful of books, on the bed, looks out her window, and sees Michael Myers standing by the clothesline. She freaks out, and then the phone rings. She answers it, and nobody's there. You just hear what sounds like breathing, but I guess is actually crunching.
Crunch, crunch.
Yeah. Lori hangs up. The phone rings again. She answers it, and it was Annie. And the first thing that Annie says is, "Why'd you hang up?" Well, if I say hello and you don't respond, I'm going to hang up on you. That's not what Lori said, but she should have.
Yeah.
She didn't answer because she was eating chips, so the breathing you hear is actually crunching. Lori basically says that she thought it was an obscene phone call, and Annie says something about, "Oh, now you're hearing things in potato chip crunching."
Well, who takes a mouthful of potato chips and then calls somebody?
My grandma does that, but she does say something. So they're making plans. They're going to get together later that night, but Annie is also babysitting for a neighbor girl to Tommy, so they're right side by side. They're going to drive there together. Annie picks Lori up. Lori has a pumpkin so that she and Tommy can carve jack-o'-lanterns, which is really nice because, he broke his.
Yeah, it was a good thing she brought one.
And she essentially says that it's just to keep him busy so that he's not going to be bothering her all night, which again is smart. Annie has a joint. And they decide to toke up on the way to their babysitting gig because that's a good idea.
I mean, it sounds like a pretty good idea. And they're not wearing their seatbelts.
Hell, this is 1970 something. Did they even make them back then?
I don't know.
They did. But I just know that my grandma was always talking about how she didn't even have her kids in car seats. They just ran all over the back seat. They didn't even make those back then. Which is so weird to me, but...
I'm glad that we have car seats and they're really safe, but could they make them less bulky?
I guess not.
I guess.
So yeah, they are smoking pot in this car. Lori obviously does not smoke pot a lot because she coughs like crazy, and her friend tells her to shut up. The reason she tells her to shut up is because she sees her dad at...
Who's a police officer?
I don't know why they even stopped. They should have just pretended like they didn't see him.
I know, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, why would you stop and roll down the window?
They throw the thing out the window.
You can't tell me he didn't smell that.
He had to have. There's no way in 3 seconds' time the inside of that car did not smell like pot.
I mean, I don't know from experience, but I'm just saying.
I know from experience. That smell is not out of that car.
I have nothing to say.
Lori obviously is freaking out because the sheriff smelled the car. She knows that he did because she's not a complete moron like the other girl. And they get to their babysitting gigs. Then we see Dr. Loomis speaking to I don't know what you would call him. He works at the cemetery.
Gravedigger?
Maybe. So he's basically asking to see Judith Myers' headstone. So the guy's taking him, and they get to the gravesite, and the tombstone is gone. I do not understand the amount of strength that it would take somebody to not only carry a headstone, but to rip it out of the ground, like you can see in the ground. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty unrealistic.
He did it.
Unless they have, like, an excavator.
Yeah. There's a lot of unrealistic things about this movie towards the end, so that's okay.
I had a question. I asked Chad this, so I wanted to ask you. Is he targeting Lori, or he's just, like, he's ready to kill anybody?
That is a good question. Because in the beginning of the movie, you see her go to the house, and she really is the first thing that he sees from the door. So I think that you're supposed to assume that that is why he latches onto her. Is because he's in...
Okay, but all she did was drop the keys off, so, like, it just seems dumb that he would be targeting her because of that.
Well, in the second movie starts where the first one leaves off. So it was filmed, like, years later, but literally picks up from that last scene. And in that movie, you find out that the Strodes also had a baby at this time. And Lori, well, it's not the Strodes, but Michael, the Myers, had a baby. And Lori is his sister. So basically, he's latching on to the...
Wait, what?
Yes.
Lori's his sister.
Lori is Michael Myers' sister.
Chad told me that's not true.
That's because Chad is going by the newest movie.
Okay. He said that somebody else, not John Carpenter, got a hold of the movie and, like, made it so that she was his sister, but that really wasn't part of the original idea or whatever, and that's why the newest movie makes it clear that she's not his sister.
In the second movie, Sam Loomis says that there is a file that states that Laurie Strode is his sister.
So how? She's adopted?
Yes.
So, in the second movie is by John Carpenter?
The second movie is by John Carpenter. And
so Chad is wrong.
So John Carpenter is not the director of H2O, but he is a writer for H2O, and that one clearly states that Lori is his sister.
So then why does the newest one say that she's not?
Because they only wanted to focus on the original, and the original never states it.
This is really confusing for me, and I don't like it.
Yes. So Super Media Bros did
a
perfect episode on this and the timeline.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Because what they are saying is, if you like the storyline where Lori is Michael's sister, then the way to watch the movies are Halloween 1, Halloween 2, H2O, and Resurrection, but don't ever watch Resurrection because just don't. It's bad.
Okay.
Halloween 3 is basically a standalone. It doesn't even have Michael Myers in it.
Well, then how can it be Halloween 3?
They were wanting to make every Halloween was going to have a different storyline, so it wasn't going to follow Michael Myers. But people hated it because it didn't have Michael Myers in it, so they went back to the original. I think it was 4, 5, and 6 has Michael Myers, but he's not after Lori. I think that he is after, other relatives. But if you do not like the storyline that Lori is his sister, then you watch the first Halloween and then the newest Halloween.
So this is kind of like choose your own adventure Halloween
That's
style.
Exactly what they say. It's basically a choose your own adventure depending on your preference.
Wait, they say that?
Yes, that's what Super Media Bros said in their episode.
Oh
it's
my
like a
gosh.
choose your own adventure.
We're like soul relatives. Kindred spirits. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, and actually I told them before we recorded that I was going to use their ingenious timeline to tell people how to watch the movies, because my favorite is Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and H2O. And I would have ended it at H2O. That being said, if you release...
You don't like the new one?
I like the new one. It's not my favorite storyline. But if they keep putting Halloween movies out with Jamie Lee Curtis in them, I will watch them every time.
Sorry, I really got us off track. I'm just trying to understand it, but I guess there's no way to understand it, so it's fine. It makes more sense why he would target her if she was his sister.
That is why I like that storyline. Because otherwise, it's saying he just picked her at random.
Yeah, because she dropped keys off because her dad was a real estate agent.
Yeah. And I just find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
But I still thoroughly enjoyed the new one just because that was her taking her life back.
Yeah.
Lori is babysitting, and the whole time she's babysitting, she's getting phone calls from Annie across the street because she wants her to come over. She's going to have a party at this person's house with her boyfriend, Linda and her boyfriend, and then I guess just Lori randomly because Lori doesn't have a boyfriend. She scares boys away.
Mm-hmm.
She's yelling at the dog for barking, which that's what dogs do, first of all. Second of all, who names their dog Lester?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
She kicks him out of the house, which leads to his death because Michael Myers kills the poor dog.
Aww.
And all he was doing was trying to tell these shitheads that there's a serial killer on the front lawn.
And then she spilled butter all over herself or something.
She spilled something on herself. So she had to go wash her clothes that were out in the garage. The washer and dryer was out in the garage or something.
That's dumb.
She gets stuck in a window.
Yeah.
I love. This ultimately does not lead to her death because the little girl receives a phone call and goes out to get her and sees her there. This is, I have not seen all of the Halloween movies, but this is kind of a theme that Michael Myers does not kill children.
It's weird, but good, I guess.
Yeah. There are numerous times where he comes in contact with both children and babies, and it's kind of a hold your breath moment, but he never kills them.
I guess he's a nice serial killer.
Also, I forgot to mention the Rob Zombie Halloweens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can watch those ones too if you'd like.
Probably gonna pass.
But they're separate. They're really good, but, well, the first one's really good, but they are gory.
Yuck.
So, Annie is going to go pick up her boyfriend. His name is Paul, I'm pretty sure, because she sings some stupid fucking song.
She sings an entire song about him.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Anyway, let's just move on from that.
Okay.
She's gonna go.
And she's not wearing any pants.
No. And she takes Lindsay over to Lori. Like, okay, are you gonna give Lori the money for babysitting this kid?
It doesn't matter.
It's
irrelevant.
As a parent, I would be pissed off if I found out that you dumped my kid onto some other babysitter.
Right.
Anyway, Lori's watching Lindsay while Annie goes and picks up Paul. She gets to the car. She forgot the keys. The doors are locked. So she goes back in to the house to get the keys, all while singing this song, comes back out, opens the door without unlocking it with the keys. And this is not like today where all you have to do is have a key fob in your pocket. So I don't understand why she didn't immediately pick up on something's up here.
Because she was too busy thinking about Paul.
Sex.
Yep.
Listen here, kids. Sex leads to being strangled in a car, because that's what happens to poor Annie. The only reason that she even realizes anything is because the windows are fogged up, which again, you could have seen that before you got into the car. Annie dies in probably the most stupid death scene I've ever seen. She is over dramatic, and when her forehead hits the window, her eyes are crossed. And then she hits the horn, and the horn just blares.
That's dumb.
So, Annie's dead, but honestly, at this point, I'm relieved because I don't have to listen to that song anymore. So, Linda and... what's that guy's name? It's another generic white guy name. Bob, I believe. They show up. They're making out in the van. They can't keep their hands off of each other. They come in the house. Nobody's there. They're dry humping on the couch. They can't even wait.
Gross.
Yeah. They end up calling Lori and asking where Annie is. She says that she's got Lindsay and Annie went to get Paul because nobody knows that their friend is dead. Linda and Bob decide to go upstairs and get it on, and these people's home, who I don't even know if they know these people.
Linda and Bob.
Linda and Bob. You're right. Maybe if they would have survived this encounter, they would have grown to have a burger restaurant somewhere.
Yeah.
And 3 lovely children.
A barely successful burger restaurant.
So they're having sex in this bed. The phone keeps ringing, but Bob can't keep it up, apparently, if he hears a ring. And so he's wanting Linda to answer the phone.
What?
She says she can't answer the phone. It's not her fucking house. So he ends up just telling her to take the phone off of the hook after it stops ringing. But that's not going to make anybody suspicious at all.
Nope.
They finish because the phone has stopped ringing, so he's back at it again. It lasts 2 seconds afterwards, like you could have just finished during one ring. I don't understand the problem here.
I don't know.
It must have been a good 2 seconds because old Linda lights up a cigarette, tells Bob to go get her a beer. So he gets up to go get her a beer, and Michael Myers decides to put a knife through his chest and just pin him to the wall like a Backstreet Boys poster. Linda is waiting for her beer. In walks Michael Myers, but she doesn't know that because he's clever and he has a white sheet over him like a ghost with Bob's glasses over top of the sheet.
Oh my gosh. Did he at least bring her a beer?
No, and she even says that, "Where's my beer?"
How rude.
That whole scene is dumb too because I don't care if I am 99% sure that it is the person who I think under that sheet. I give you 2 tries to take that sheet off, and if you haven't, I am screaming and running and probably hitting you. I don't play. So she gets strangled with the phone cord. When she's getting strangled with the phone cord, Lori is on the other end because she has called and she thinks that she's listening to Paul and Linda have sex, which isn't a far jump because that literally just happened. But again, scary movie rules. You had sex, you have to die. Lori starts to freak out because she can't get a hold of Annie. She can't get a hold of Linda and Bob. She knows that they were over there. She knows that their van is sitting out front, so she decides to tell the kids to stay inside, and she's going to go inspect. I forgot, though, Tommy flat out told her the boogeyman was outside. Because, again, Tommy is the smartest person in this movie. And the poor kid says, "Nobody ever believes me."
I would be the same way, though, if Cruz told me the boogeyman was outside. I'd just ignore it.
Okay, to ignore it is one thing, but then to 15 minutes later go investigate over there where he said the boogeyman was. I'm sorry, I still would not do that. I'd be like, you guys are on your own. I'm a good kid. I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
But she goes over to investigate, and she walks around the outside of the house for a little bit, ends up going in, all of the lights are off. She is hollering for them. Nobody comes to her calls. As she's walking, I can't remember what happens first, but she finds all of her friends dead. They're either behind doors or in a cabinet, or Annie is laying sprawled out on the bed with Judith Meyer's headstone above her.
That is creepy. So creepy.
It's just a horror scene. She finds out all of her friends are dead. There are so many really scary parts in terms of visually here because there's a lot of parts where Lori is standing there and you just see his face in the background. And she has no idea that he's there. What ends up happening, though, is he eventually comes out and he cuts her. He cuts her arm. She falls down the stairs, but she's able to run out of the house. And when I say she's able to run out of the house, what I mean is she comes to a door that is 90% glass and a rake on the handle, and instead of immediately busting through the glass and moving the rake, she's going to sit there and jiggle the handle until he's almost on top of her. But she does finally wise up and break the glass and move the rake. She runs to a few houses knocking on the doors. Nobody's going to answer the door for her. I can't really say that I blame them. And maybe they just think it's a Halloween prank, but, in today's age, you're told not to answer the door for people like that. And it's sad, but...
Yeah, I would call 911, but I would not let them in.
Right. She ends up going back to the house where she's babysitting, and she is hollering at the kids. I think she throws a flower pot up at the bedroom window to get their attention. They run down and let her in the house just in the nick of time. She yells at them to run, lock themselves in the bathroom. Then she notices that there's a window open. So all of that was for nothing. She knows that he is in the house somewhere. She sits down in front of the couch. She does finally do something smart, and she grabs a knitting needle. Jumps over the couch with the knife, stabs the couch. She grabs his hand and takes the knitting needle and stabs him in the throat or neck with it. You see him grab the knitting needle, pull it out, stumble backwards, fall onto the floor. She looks, and he's there on the floor, looking dead. Mm-hmm. She grabs the knife, which, good for you. But then she just, lays there on the couch. Pick up the phone. Call the cops. What are you doing?
Just taking a nap.
Yeah, and that's basically what she does, which I think what you're supposed to assume is, the whole thing has traumatized her and she passes out. Or that's what I'm going with, because that's the only way I'm going to be okay with this scene.
I mean, she just ran, around the neighborhood, so she's probably tired.
That's true. That would do it for me. She probably had a big piece of pumpkin pie and then went for a run. It's a lot.
It is.
So she comes to, he's gone. So obviously he's not dead. She goes upstairs. She gets the kids out of the bathroom and she says, run downstairs, run out of the house, go to so-and-so's house and call the cops. And they say, okay. And they very calmly walk down the stairs, open the front door, and I'm not kidding you, as soon as their feet hit the front porch, they lose their shit. And they are screaming bloody murder. Dr. Loomis hears this and immediately goes to, that has to be where he's at. He's been looking all around the neighborhood for this guy with the sheriff. These kids are running out of the house screaming. That's where he's going. Meanwhile, Lori is upstairs fighting Michael Myers. She hides in a closet, puts a belt around it, which it's a good attempt, but you basically just set yourself in a trap. He breaks through the closet. She does take a hanger and stab him in the eye. So, that's good. He falls out onto the floor. Does she stab him with the knife? I can't remember, exactly what happens, but he gets stabbed with either a hanger or a knife. He's laying on the floor. She opens the closet door, steps over him. He's dead. This is probably one of the scarier points because you think that it's finally over and she's sitting next to the wall crying and you just see him sit straight up and start to come towards her. He grabs her by the neck, pushes her out of the door. Thank God Loomis is there, and Loomis just starts shooting. He shoots him so many times that the guy falls out the window, off of a balcony, and onto the floor. This is where Laurie Strode says the line, "He was the boogeyman, wasn't he?" Loomis says, "Yes, I believe that he is." So they look out the window, and he's gone. The end.
Okay, here's my next question. Why can't you kill the boogeyman if he's just a regular person?
Well, I don't know. And see, that's what my argument with this whole last one was, is I thought that their whole idea was that they were going to take the supernatural aspect away from it. Like, he really is just a man.
Uh-huh.
But now they're coming out with a sequel.
Huh.
And I know we didn't see him burn up in the cellar, but, I mean, it makes you think, okay, well, how did he get out?
Maybe he's the father of dragons.
Maybe. My thought is that Lori had another way out in case she ever got trapped down there with him. And he found that way out.
That makes sense.
That's the only way I'm going to be okay with it. Because if the whole point was to take the supernatural aspect out of it and then you do that, then you're just doing it for money, which I guess I can't fault them. I like money just the same as anybody else.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Halloween. And as much as I make fun of the movie, it really is one of my favorites and it's worth a watch even if you just laugh at it.
I laughed at it.
Yep. My niece, who will not watch scary movies, watched this movie with me and was like, I liked it.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're the hosts of the Rinkside Podcast. We were annoyed by the lack of hockey coverage on local sports radio and decided that we were stupid enough to try and provide some ourselves.
We have what we call the Rinkside Guarantee. We guarantee that the podcast you're currently listening to is better than ours. We are literally just two halves of one whole idiot trying to fumble through covering the Detroit Red Wings, the National Hockey League, and hockey in general.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Ringside Pod, and subscribe to us on all your favorite podcast providers.
Every time you listen to our podcast, it brings us one step closer to our ultimate business goal of purchasing the Arizona Coyotes and then moving them to Detroit. What? Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming, or just another commercial. We aren't the ones who make those choices.
Getting into the random facts, these are brought to you by Mental Floss and GeekyTyrant.com. A lot of these kind of play into our last episode, which I absolutely love. So the first one, it took less than 2 weeks to write the script. I can see that. Like, a horror movie. I mean, not to put the movie down, but the first one really didn't have much of a plot, per se.
Maybe they should have spent a little more time on it.
Maybe. Because, like you said, he just sees this girl and then follows her around.
Yeah.
So, director John Carpenter originally intended to call the movie The Babysitter Murders, but producer Irwin Yablans suggested that the story may be more significant if it were based around a specific holiday, so the title was changed to Halloween.
I think that was a pretty good call.
Yep. The original script was written in just 10 days. This was Jamie Lee Curtis's feature debut. Curtis was initially interested in the role because she loved Carpenter's 1976 film Assault on Precinct 13 and went on to audition for the part of Laurie Strode 3 separate times. Carpenter initially wanted actress Anne Lockhart for the role, but cast Curtis after her final audition, where she nailed the scene of Laurie looking out her window to see Michael Myers in her backyard. Curtis has reprised her role as Laurie several times in the near 40 years since the original film's release, and also lent her voice in an uncredited appearance as a phone operator in Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, the pseudo-sequel that did not feature Michael Myers' storyline. Production was incredibly short. It was a 20-day shoot in the spring of 1978. The seasonal restrictions created some interesting hurdles for the production. Dozens of bags of fake leaves were painted by production designers and used for various scenes. Others may notice that the trees that line the streets of the fictional Haddonfield are fully green instead of autumnally colored. Wow, that's a word?
I guess so. Well, it's better than folly.
That's true. Carpenter initially wanted to somehow change the trees too, but budget restraints kept him from making them seasonally correct. Seasonally might have been a better word.
Yeah.
The script didn't call for a specific kind of mask. They only had it in the script that they wanted a pale, neutral feature of a man. And they kind of tossed some things around. They were going to do a replica mask of a clown character called Weary Willie, popularized by actor Emmett Kelly. But they ended up going with a stretched out Captain Kirk mask from Star Trek, and they just painted it white.
Wow.
Yep. One of the characters is named after another famous movie character. Did you catch that?
I thought that sounded familiar, but I did not realize that.
Donald Pleasance's character, Dr. Sam Loomis, was named after the character of the same name from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Curtis's mother also appeared in Psycho as Sam Loomis's girlfriend Marion and was killed in the film's famous shower scene. For the Loomis character in Halloween, Carpenter originally wanted either Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, but both passed on the film because the pay was too low. Pleasance would go on to appear in 4 Halloween sequels, including Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, which was released after his death in 1995. Most of the main cast provided their own wardrobe. Curtis bought her costumes at JCPenney, all for under $100.
Hey, that's where my wardrobe comes from, too.
Yep. There were a lot of different Michael Myers. So, he was originally played by actor Nick Castle, who I said at the beginning. He was Carpenter's friend from USC Film School, and he would co-write with Carpenter for the 1981 film Escape from New York. But Michael Myers was also played by production designer Tommy Lee Wallace whenever needed. When Myers is unmasked at the end of the film, he's played by an actor Tony Moran, who would go on to appear in guest spots on TV shows like The Waltons and Chips. He was paid $250 for a day's work and a single shot in Halloween. At the time of shooting, the Myers house was actually abandoned, so when you see Laurie going to the house, that's how they found the house. The beginning shot is after they did it up. Carpenter completed the entire score for Halloween by himself in only 3 days. The director usually does all the music for his own films, and his theme for the movie came from a simple drumming exercise for the bongos that his father had taught him when he was a child.
Huh. Well, it's pretty good.
I like this one. For years, people would tell Carpenter how horrified they were by Michael Myers' grotesquely disfigured face, which we get a glimpse of when Laurie pulls his mask off for a brief moment near the end of the movie. What's interesting about this is that all audiences saw was the ordinary face of the actor playing the part. He had a perfectly normal face, except for the small knife wound inflicted by Laurie during their struggle in the closet. Carpenter has said that this is evidence of the power of suggestion in cinema, that the audience saw a monster on screen, so assumed he must look like a monster underneath the mask.
My mind did not do that, because when she pulled up the mask, I was like, huh, it's just a dude.
Mm-hmm. Jamie Lee Curtis was so disappointed with her performance on the first day of shooting that she thought she would be fired after the day was over. Carpenter called her that night, and Curtis was certain it was to end her movie career. Instead, Carpenter congratulated her and told her he was very happy with the way things had gone.
Oh, that's good.
Carpenter considered the hiring of Curtis as the ultimate tribute to Alfred Hitchcock, who had given her mother legendary status in his film Psycho. So this dude watched Psycho and loved this film so much he wanted to make his own, so he named a character after one of the main characters and hired the lead actress's daughter for the film.
That's crazy.
It is very crazy. I loved that. The movie playing while Laurie is babysitting is the 1951 film The Thing from Another World. What's interesting about this is that Carpenter went on to direct a remake of that movie in 1982 called The Thing. And Curtis was the only actual teenager while shooting the film. She was paid $8,000 for her work on the film.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got for you. I really liked the parallel of Psycho to this.
Yeah, that really blows my mind.
Yeah, the fact that both movies were voted by our listeners as, you know, some of their favorite Halloween movies, and the two are so closely related. I love that.
With social media, we had a tweet from Super Media Bros that said, one of the best scenes in Halloween, an ultimate holy shit moment that still gives me chills to this day. And it's a gif of Jamie Lee Curtis sitting there when Michael Myers sits straight up.
Yep.
Which I'm glad they posted that gif, because I was less scared when I watched the movie because I knew it was going to happen.
So thank you, Super Media Bros.
Yeah, thank you for saving me from peeing my pants. Richie from Super Media Bros said, to me, Halloween was the moment the horror genre was completely redefined. It still resonates to this day. It's visceral and unnerving. The camera angles and score increase it all. It also proves you don't need a lot of gore in a horror film to truly be terrified. The last 15 minutes of that movie still fuck with me.
Yeah, I could see that, especially, like, I can imagine watching it when I was younger. Like, watching it now, it doesn't have the same effect, but when I was little, some of the stupidest shit would scare me.
Oh, yeah. I was afraid of my own shadow when I was little.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like scary things, because I don't want to be afraid, like, when I have to pee in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I watched the movie What Lies Beneath when I was camping on the Ohio River, and I was afraid to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I would be too. That movie is scary.
I also have another social media comment that is probably one of my favorites that I've ever gotten. When we asked everyone's opinion of Halloween, Steven from Boar Meets World replied, "It's aight." So thank you for your input.
Oh, man.
So that's all we have for you for Halloween. The next episode that we're dropping next week will be Scream. It's another one of your favorites, and that is one of my top 2 favorites. So yeah, we'll be back next week with Scream. Keep an eye out for that. Stay spooky, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
To interact with us and have your responses read on the show, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at the Faves of Our L1, and join us on Patreon for bonus content and special merchandise at patreon.com/thefavesofoural1. That's the Faves of Our L and the number 1. You can also email us at thefavesofOurLives@gmail.com.